So let's talk about the Bulls. Since they traded for Vooch, they're 3-6. Last night's game against the Wolves was winnable. Rubio went nuts from three. That's a bit of a bad break. But I think they also had some real mistakes defensively, and that's kind of been the story since they traded for Vooch. I mean, against the Wolves, sure, there were some possessions where Towns was just better than Vooch, like you just beat him in the post or whatever. But there were other times where they weren't able to close out to Towns when he was in some handoff action around the elbows or pick and pops or whatever. There was one play where they double-teamed D'Lo, and then that led to a wide-open Towns three. And some of that's just going to happen because Towns is an alien on offense. But there were also plays where D'Lo was turning the corner on the screens, and there just wasn't enough resistance. He was able to comfortably get into a pull-up jumper. There were a couple of times where the rotations were not right on Naz Reid, catch and shoots or pick and pops or just dives to the basket. And I feel like that's kind of the main thing right now. There's not enough stuff happening on defense for this team. I feel like they're relying too much on conventional just defend your guy type of stuff. And I feel like the biggest culprit of this was against the Hawks, where, was that even proper English? I don't know. But Trae Young was involved in screens a million times, as he always is, and they just kept dropping. And so what happened was Trae was getting these runways where he could just comfortably do whatever he wanted to do. I mean, there was one play where he was like from 17 feet out on mid-range, and there was just no one there at all. They just stared at him and let him shoot it. And I think some of this is like, look, they traded for Vooch, who is not the best defensive center, but Steve Clifford found a way to be a very good defensive team with Vooch playing heavy minutes. And for one, you just need more general activity. You need more collapsing onto ball handlers. You need more just fighting over screens. You need more of double teams. Maybe not so much when Towns is setting the screen, but there's potential amongst all that to make it work, and I just feel like it's not happening. I mean, against the Jazz, it was a similar thing where Gobert sets a screen, dives to the basket, and they're basically asking Vooch to defend the ball handler and Gobert at the same time. That's very difficult to do. Now, I get it. The Jazz have a bunch of shooting. They're really good, but if you want to be a good defense in the NBA, you've got to do something else, whether it's switching, whether it's bringing extra defenders, and then having the smart rotations to close out to the shooters, whatever it is. They're just not doing it, and that's the story of the Bulls right now. Now, that being said, I do feel like the Satoransky, Thad Young, Patrick Williams lineup with LaVine and Vooch makes a lot of sense. I think that's the best combination of defense, playmaking, athleticism, and shooting that they can put around those two. Troy Brown Jr. could fit into this as well. And I know there's been a bit of a conversation about Markkanen and Kobe White lately, and Bulls fans are pretty much all the way out on Markkanen, and yeah, my bet is that he's not on the team next year, but I don't think he's like the end-all be-all of their problems. And I guess Kobe White is kind of similar. That said, LaVine is 25, Vooch is 30, so it's time to win. And as far as the rest of this season, we'll see. But when we get to the offseason, I think we're going to see more aggressive moves from this front office to try to get this team to probably like a 45-win team or potentially better next year. And, an obvious way to do that is you look for a Markkanen sign and trade, restricted free agency, makes it a little tougher. You might look to move Kobe White. You've got the Satoransky and Thad Young contracts to facilitate a move. Those guys are also good players, so there's reason to want to keep them, but there's not really a lot of time left for the whole figure out with the young guys thing. The Vooch trade was a signal that they're going in a direction of trying to win. Now, when we look at their free agent possibilities, if they renounce Markkanen and if they drop Arcidiacono, that would give them about $16 million in cap space, I believe. They could also try to turn Aminu into a smaller contract. If they wanted to get real wild, they could drop Satoransky or Thad Young because their contracts are non-guaranteed. That said, both of those guys help this team out. And Lonzo was the obvious guy talked about for them at the trade deadline. And maybe, we'll see, they could throw a big offer at him. I mean, he's a good passer and a good defender, the two things this team needs. There's a lot of free agents, of course. We'll see what they end up doing there. The other thing I'm thinking about is the potential for a trade. You've got Aminu's $10 million expiring. I've already mentioned the potential of a Markkanen sign and trade, maybe. I think Kobe White could be a trade chip. Troy Brown Jr. could as well. I know Bulls fans like him, but listen, you got to turn this team into a winner pretty fast here. So I think they have some stuff to move. That said, when I go down the list of every player in the league, I can't find the good player who's going to get traded. I mean, it always happens, I know, but it's tough to speculate. I don't think the Kings are going to move Harrison Barnes, although I think he would be amazing for the Bulls. If you promised me that Eric Bledsoe would get back to like 2018 regular season Bledsoe, 18 points, 5 assists, great defense, that would be awesome for the Bulls. I also don't think that's going to happen. I think Ricky Rubio is in a similar boat where it's like he would give them the passing and the defense they need. That said, he hasn't been too good this season. With the Suns, he was pretty damn good, even if his overall percentages were still not the best. So I'm a little conflicted with that one. I don't know, man. All I do know, or at least what I believe, is that the best version of the Bulls features a bunch of passers, defenders, and shooters around Levine and Vooch. And the closest thing they have to that right now is the lineup of Satoransky, Patrick Williams, and Thad Young. And it's not a coincidence to me that that's their one pretty damn good lineup since they got Vooch. Now, for what it's worth, the offensive rating with Levine and Vooch in the game is actually not good right now. I'm not concerned about that at all. I don't really care. I guess the last thing to think about, if I just want to dream super big for the Bulls, is there a way for them to get a third star, unless Patrick Williams just grows into that third star, which I do think is a possibility, as I've established with that underrated whatever video I did. But in terms of a move, I mean, Patrick Williams himself could be a pretty good starting point of a trade if some star is available. The thing is, though, because of the way they did the Vooch trade, they would have to move picks starting in 2025, and that's a little out there. You know, I mean, Vooch at that point is going to be 35 years old or 34, whatever. And that might be a little too much of a risk, but if you're trading for some star player who's got a lot of years left, then perhaps it couldn't be that bad of an idea. As far as who that can be, I don't know, man. The other idea is, could they attract a star player in free agency in 2023 if they manage to be a good team next year while not sacrificing their long-term cap space? I mean, they're going to have to extend Levine, and his max is going to be worth, 37 or something a year, at least. And then you're going to have Vooch for $22 million. Patrick Williams will still be on his rookie contract. And after that, you've got nobody else. So you could afford somebody. And, between Steph Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant. Listen, man, it's not impossible. It's probably not going to happen, but it's at least 1% a possibility. But yeah, they got some work to do, because the team as they are right now, they're not too good, but they've got they got a lot of options for this offseason.